It was a crisp Sunday afternoon in a bustling city park. The golden rays of the setting sun painted the horizon while families enjoyed picnics, children chased each other around playgrounds, and joggers weaved through the walking paths. Among the lively crowd was a man most people didn't recognize at first glance. Jason Statham. Dressed in a simple black hoodie and jeans, he was enjoying a rare day off accompanied by his two beloved pit bulls, Max and Bella. My biggest grudge. Dogs were his constant companions, rescued from shelters, and he treated them as if they were family. Max and Bella, their sleek coats gleaming under the sun, happily trotted beside Jason as he strolled through the park. Their tails wagged energetically, and their curious noses sniffed at the autumn leaves scattered across the ground. Jason, sipping a takeaway coffee, felt at peace. He enjoyed blending in with the crowd, just another man walking his dogs on a serene afternoon. Nearby, a group of bikers roared into the park's parking lot, their arrival breaking the tranquil atmosphere. They dismounted their motorcycles with exaggerated swagger, their leather jackets adorned with patches, their laughter loud and brash. The group of five appeared to be in high spirits, though their presence cast a shadow over the park, drawing stares from curious onlookers. Among the bikers was their apparent leader, a burly man with a thick beard and a permanent scowl etched across his face. His name was Duke, and he was known for his aggressive demeanor and volatile temper. Duke thrived on being the center of attention, often indulging in antics that shocked and intimidating others. As Jason passed near their group, Max and Bella began wagging their tails excitedly. Bella, the more adventurous of the two, bounded forward to investigate. She approached the bikers cautiously, her head tilted, as if curious about their loud voices and the smell of motor oil that clung to their leather jackets. "Get that mutt away from me," Duke barked suddenly, startling everyone nearby. Before Jason could react, Duke raised his boot and kicked Bella harshly. The pit bull yelped in pain and scrambled back toward Jason, her tail tucked between her legs. The sound of Bella's yelp froze Jason in his tracks. He immediately knelt down to check on her, running his hands over her body to ensure she wasn't seriously hurt. Bella whimpered softly but leaned into Jason's touch, trusting him to make things right. Max, sensing the distress of his companion, growled low in his throat and stepped protectively in front of Bella. Jason, still calm, held Max back with a firm but gentle hand. "It's okay, boy," he said, though his eyes betrayed a simmering anger. The crowd around them had fallen silent, all eyes now fixed on the unfolding scene. Parents pulled their children closer, joggers slowed to a stop, and a few bold individuals pulled out their phones to record what was happening. Jason rose to his full height, his sharp gaze locking onto Duke. "You kicked my dog," he said, his voice steady but laced with a quiet intensity that made Duke pause. "She shouldn't have come near me," Duke shot back, his bravado undeterred. "Dogs like that should be kept on a leash." "Ah," he sneered, looking down at Jason with disdain, completely unaware of who he was speaking to. Jason's lips pressed into a thin line. He didn't like confrontations, but he wouldn't tolerate cruelty, especially not toward innocent animals. "Hurting an animal doesn't make you tough," he said evenly. "It just makes you a coward." Kook laughed, a harsh sound that grated on everyone's nerves. "Coward, huh?" says the guy who's letting his mutts run wild. He took a step closer, clearly trying to intimidate Jason. "What are you gonna do about it, old man?" Jason's jaw tightened, but he remained still, his hands relaxed at his sides. He glanced at the growing crowd, then back at Duke. "Apologize to her," he said. his voice calm but commanding. Duke scoffed, his companions chuckling behind him. Apologize? To a dog? He gestured mockingly at Bella, who was now sitting behind Jason, still trembling slightly. You've got to be kidding me. Jason didn't flinch. His unyielding gaze bore into Duke, and the air around them seemed to grow heavier. Though the biker didn't recognize Jason, a few people in the crowd began whispering to each other, pointing at him as they pieced together his identity. That's Jason Statham, someone murmured, their voice tinged with awe. The realization rippled through the crowd, and the dynamic began to shift. Duke, oblivious to the whispers, smirked confidently. What's the matter, mate? Gonna call the cops? He taunted. Jason took a step forward, closing the distance between them. His presence was magnetic, his movements deliberate. The crowd held its breath, sensing that things were about to escalate. Last chance, Jason said quietly, his voice so calm it sent a chill down Duke's spine. Apologize to my dog. Duke hesitated for the first time, the intensity in Jason's eyes unnerving him. But his pride wouldn't allow him to back down, not in front of his crew. He clenched his fists, his bravado faltering slightly. The stage was set. Everyone watched, waiting to see how this confrontation would unfold. And while Duke still believed he was in control, the tides were already turning, and Jason Statham was about to remind him and everyone else why underestimating him was always a mistake. And Duke stood rooted to the spot, his smirk faltering as Jason took another deliberate step forward. Though Duke was physically imposing, there was something about Jason's quiet demeanor that radiated authority, a calm before the storm that made even the boldest man reconsider his actions. What's the matter? Duke sneered, though his voice wavered. You gonna hit me in front of all these people? Go on, give it a shot. His companions laughed nervously, unsure whether to cheer him on or step back. Jason didn't answer. He bent down instead and gently patted Bella on the head, murmuring reassuring words to her. The crowd leaned in, phones still recording, their whispers growing louder. That's Jason Statham, someone repeated, this time louder. The action star, the guy from all those movies. I just said, Duke's brow furrowed as he overheard the name. His bravado faltered for a split second before he forced a laugh. Oh, I don't care who you are, mate. You think being in movies makes you tough. You're just another actor who thinks he's something special. Jason straightened and met Duke's gaze, his expression unreadable. You don't know me, he said simply, the words cutting through the air like a knife. The tension in the park was palpable. Parents ushered their children to a safe distance, and joggers abandoned their routes entirely, drawn to the unfolding spectacle. Even Duke's crew exchanged uncertain glances, sensing that their leader might be in over his head. One of Duke's friends, a lanky man named Reggie, finally spoke up. Maybe we should just let this go, Duke, he muttered. It's just a dog, right? Duke rounded on him, his scowl deepening. What, you scared of this guy? He barked. He's just an actor. I've taken on bigger blokes than him. Jason, meanwhile, remained calm, his hands at his sides. His gaze flickered to the crew behind Duke. You should listen to your friend, he said evenly. But Duke wasn't one to back down, especially not with an audience. Oh yeah? What are you gonna do about it? He taunted, puffing out his chest. Jason's lips curled into a faint smile, one that didn't reach his eyes. Not much, he said casually, but I wouldn't bet on walking away from this unscathed. Duke's eyes narrowed, his pride refusing to let him back down. He took a swing at Jason, a wild, reckless punch meant to intimidate more than injure. But Jason sidestepped effortlessly, his movements fluid and precise. The punch missed entirely, and Duke stumbled forward, nearly losing his balance. Oh, uh, the crowd gasped, their phones capturing every moment. Jason didn't retaliate. Instead, he held his ground, his stance relaxed yet prepared. Go home, Jason said quietly, his tone leaving no room for argument. Walk away while you still can. Duke, humiliated in front of his crew, and the growing crowd growled in frustration. You think you're some kind of hero? He spat. I'm not scared of you. Jason sighed as if dealing with a stubborn child. I didn't ask you to be scared, he said. I asked you to do the right thing. When Duke wasn't listening, fueled by embarrassment and anger, he charged at Jason, fists raised. This time, Jason moved. He moved back a month, and then, with a quick, calculated motion, Jason dodged the attack and swept Duke's legs out from under him. Duke hit the ground hard, the impact knocking the wind out of him. Before he could recover, Jason stood over him, his expression stern but controlled. You're in 3. This isn't a movie, Jason said softly, his voice carrying an edge that sent chills down everyone's spine. You don't get a second take. Apologize. Now. Booth, gasping for air, looked up at Jason, his bravado completely shattered. His crew remained silent, unwilling to come to his aid. The crowd, now fully aware of who Jason was, began murmuring excitedly, their phones aimed squarely at the fallen biker. Oh. Finally, Duke muttered, I'm sorry. Jason tilted his head, his eyes narrowing. To her, he clarified, nodding toward Bella. Duke hesitated, then turned his head toward the pit bull, who was watching cautiously from behind Jason. I'm sorry, he said, louder this time, though his voice was strained. Jason stepped back, allowing Duke to scramble to his feet. Now leave, he said firmly, his tone brooking no argument. Duke didn't need to be told twice. He gestured for his crew to follow him, and they hurriedly made their way back to their bikes. The crowd parted to let them through, their expressions a mix of disdain and satisfaction. As the bikers roared out of the parking lot, Jason turned back to Bella and Max. He crouched down to stroke their heads, his demeanor softening instantly. Good girl, he murmured to Bella, who licked his hand gratefully. The crowd erupted into applause, cheering and clapping for Jason's actions. He looked up, slightly embarrassed by the attention, and gave a small wave before continuing his walk through the park. But the story didn't end there. Among the onlookers was a young boy, no more than 10 years old, who approached Jason shyly. Mister, you're a real-life superhero, he said, his eyes wide with admiration. Jason chuckled, ruffling the boy's hair. Not quite, kid, he replied. Just someone who loves his dogs. As Jason walked away, the crowd slowly dispersed, their conversations buzzing with excitement. Videos of the incident began circulating online within minutes, and by the end of the day, the story of Jason Statham standing up to a bully in the park had gone viral, inspiring people around the world to stand up for what's right.